Good morning to you all. It is my great pleasure to introduce you to Ana Barros. She is working at the EARA, the European Animal Research Association. And first of all, I want to thank her for accepting this invitation. And I want to explain a little bit why she's here. For some of you, animal experimentation might seem like far from the research that you do every day, but in fact it's not. Some of you work with animal products or with experimentation in animals. And last May, the European Commission issued a recommendation to stop all animal testing to produce antibodies. And this is the reason why Ana is here. She's going to talk a little bit about herself, about the work she's doing now, and at the end she will try to explain what they are doing to cope with this recommendation from the European Commission that wants to ban all the animal experimentation with antibodies, and this has, of course, huge impact in the people that work with IGY, for example. So, Ana, thank you so much for being here with us, and well, the screen is yours.
Thank you so much. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So hopefully you can see my screen now.
Yes,
right?
We can see.
If there is any problem, just let me know. So hello everyone, good morning. First of all, thank you so much for this kind invitation. It's my pleasure to be here today sharing the work that I'm doing in science communication and specifically in this area of animal research. In this presentation, I'm going to give you an overview on how institutions in Europe are improving their communications about the use of animals in biomedical research. I'm also going to highlight what are the challenges and also the opportunities we are facing at this moment. I would love to have this meeting in person because it would be a great excuse for me to go to the Aveiro University again. And Aveiro University is really an important place for me, not only because it was a place where I did my degree and master degree, but also because it was the first place where I realized the importance of science communication. It was the first place where I understood how important it is to translate the scientific knowledge to the society. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by amazing scientists that always gave me all the support I needed to explore and to improve different ways to communicate my work. Because of that, I decided to learn more about science communication, and I did a second master degree in science communication. Thanks to my scientific background and the knowledge in this field of science communication, I had opportunity to have my first professional experience working as a communications officer at Nova Medical School in Lisbon. I was there for 2 years until I decided to accept the challenge to move to London to work at the European Animal Research Association. And this position so far gave me the opportunity to travel all across Europe to discuss openness and transparency with scientists, with journalists, and with politicians. And since last year, I'm also a member of the EPAA Miro Group, and the EPAA is the European Partnership for Alternatives to Animal Testing in Brussels. So working in science communication means building different strategies to communicate with different targets, always providing accurate and evidence-based information. And that's what we do at EARA. So EARA is a communications and advocacy organization aiming to inform about the use of animals in scientific research. We are a non-for-profit organization since 2014, with more than 100 members, including both public and private institutions across 20 different European countries. Our members in Portugal are universities, research centers, and the National Lab Animal Society. EARA has 4 main strategic aims. The first one is to represent the European life science sector with the European Commission. Our network and our collaboration with other pan-European bodies allow us to be in a great position to influence decision makers. The second one is to increase public understanding on animal research by helping scientists and institutions making a strong case for the need of animals in research. We want to promote a balanced debate and give the public the scientific arguments they need so they can make up their minds. Then, in a number of countries, EARA has created transparency agreements already in place in countries such as Spain, Portugal, and Belgium. And finally, EARA also provides support in the transport and supply chain for animal research. So now you are a bit more familiar with EARA's work, but before I started to explain what are the challenges and opportunities for the scientific community to improve communications, I would like to ask you a question. Why should we talk about animals in biomedical research? And I would say that the main reason is to provide accurate and up-to-date information. The majority of people are not aware how science works. They don't know the research process. They don't know all the regulations in place to perform animal research. So if scientists don't speak about this, the information that is available to the public is the one provided by activist groups. And usually activist groups provide information, they show videos and images that do not correspond to the reality. So public support and public opinion in science is important because it could translate in political decisions. So we should improve our communications to help to maintain an acceptable level of understanding in society. There are a lot of challenges to improve public understanding, and those challenges are different from the ones in the past. Currently, scientists are not facing any violent campaign or any nasty campaign as it happened in the past. We have different challenges, we have new challenges. Our first challenge is one related with professional communications from activist groups. Activist groups are now professional communicators with an easy message to share. And the message is, let's phase out animal research tomorrow because there is nothing good coming from it. And this is much easier than try to explain the complexity of a disease, for example. The next challenge is focused on legislation. Some years ago, in 2015, there was an initiative called Stop Vivisection. This was a European citizen initiative to phase out animal research. The European Commission replied to that campaign, highlighting the value of animal research and explaining why we still need to use animals in research. However, the Commission has agreed with one point in that campaign, and that was the lack of transparency from the scientific community. The Commission said that a more open approach should be taken by scientists. Another example is in the Netherlands, where the Dutch government wants to be the leader of animal-free innovations by 2025. Also, in the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, there were some members of the European Parliament writing letters to the European Commission asking for a change for animal-free models to study coronavirus. We are also dealing with scientific publications from activist groups. So activists are attending the same meetings as we are, they are going to the same conference as we are. And speaking in scientific challenges, one of the areas we are working at the moment is on the issue of animal-derived antibodies. And to put you in context, last year, there was a European recommendation by the European Union Reference Lab for Alternatives to Animal Testing, recommending that animals should no longer be used for the development and production of antibodies for research, regulatory, diagnostic, therapeutic, and therapeutic approach applications. In response to that recommendation, we carried out a survey to collect feedback from the scientific community. We got more than 100 responses across different European countries, and based on that results and the feedback, we created a working group of leading scientists to raise their scientific concerns over any obligation to only use non-animal derived antibodies. Together with EFPIA, and EFPIA is the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations, and also with the support of the Animal Health Europe, we publish our response to that recommendation. And although we welcome this forward-thinking approach, it was clear from our survey and from our working group that this recommendation is premature, especially in the fields of therapeutics and animal health. So our next step is to organize webinars in different European countries to explain to the competent authorities our concerns over a requirement to only use non-animal derived antibodies. We have more challenges, and probably the most difficult one is the one that can put in danger the reputation of the institution. Although these, for example, undercover films are pretty rare, this is always a very uncomfortable situation for everyone. And if the institutions are not prepared to respond, this could have a really negative impact. Finally, the last challenge, I would say, that is trust. And as I said before, public opinion is important because it could influence political decisions. And the idea of having a future without animal research and without animal testing is great, is wonderful. But unfortunately, we are not there yet. And at this moment, there are a lot of pressure, especially in Europe and with the European Commission, to phase out animal research and to move to animal-free innovations. So if we don't provide information to explain why we still need to use animals in research, how can the public understand that? How can politicians understand that? So our approach was always based on openness, because we believe that openness and transparency can avoid misconceptions about and wrong ideas about the way animals are used in science. So those are the challenges. What are the opportunities? How can we improve public understanding? The situation we are living now with coronavirus is a good example, is a good case study to explain to the public why animal research is important, especially during a health crisis. We also have opportunities in the existing regulations, and we are working several initiatives, such as the transparency agreements on animal research, and in assessing institutional openness in animal research. On coronavirus, EARA has created a global map to show how animals are helping in COVID-19 research, display information for basic research, drug development, and vaccines and funding. And this could not be a better time to show that without animals, we didn't get any vaccine safe and effective for everyone. Social media and institutional websites are really important channels where the public can access the information. So we should take advantage of those channels to inform about the role of animals in COVID-19 research. On the existing regulations, we have two main areas to improve public understanding. The first one is the publication of animal stats reports, and the second one is the non-technical summaries. Last year, the European Commission has published the most transparent report ever with all information about animal research, the numbers of animals used, information about severity. And we always consider this as a great opportunity to give context to the numbers and to have the public involved in this discussion. So we managed to have a press release. Basically, we did an international social media campaign with case studies by country, and we sent out press releases to the top science journalists in each European country to address this publication. And as a result, in the day of the publication, we got attention from the media, but that the story was not about the numbers, was really about the science. In Portugal, we have a very positive article on RTP explaining the report, highlighting our case studies. We had a case study in skin cancer and diabetes, and they also mentioned the transparency agreement in Portugal, but also the other agreements in place in other countries. On social media, we have more than 100 infographics in 14 European languages, presenting the numbers, giving more information about the directive, the animal welfare, the 3Rs, showing our case studies for different countries. Another opportunity, as I mentioned before, is the non-technical summaries. And here we set up a working group to improve the language used. And the idea is that any person can understand the aims and the benefits of any research project, including the information about animal research. And inspired by the UK Concordat on openness on animal research, that is an initiative created by Understanding Animal Research in 2014 in the UK. EARA has created, in close collaboration with the scientific community from different countries, the Transparency Agreement in Animal Research. And today there are more than 300 organizations in Europe in this initiative. And discussions are taking place in other countries to move forward this openness approach. Hopefully we will have a transparency agreement in the Netherlands very soon, and also we are in discussions in Switzerland, France, Italy, and Poland. In the UK, we have 124 institutions in this initiative, including Oxford University, Cambridge University, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and so on. Spain we have the biggest agreement in Spain at the moment. We have 143 institutions, including universities, pharmaceutical companies, but also 3Rs organizations and patient organizations as well. In Portugal, we have 19 organizations, and we hope to keep increasing this number. We have the same number of organizations in Belgium as well. And to be part of the agreement, institutions, they need to talk about when, how, and why animals are used. They need to improve communications with the media and with the public. And they need to be proactive in providing more information and also share and report experiences every year. And before having transparency agreements in place, the reality in the different countries where we have agreements now, the reality was that only before the agreement, only few institutions spoke about their animal research, and little information was available at their websites. So openness and transparency were very rare. But by signing a transparency agreement, scientists have opportunity to engage with their communication departments and to work together in proactive ways to engage with media and with the public. It's really important to have a key person from the scientific side, but also a key person from the communication side to work together. And then each institution knows what is the best way to move forward on transparency, but EARA always provide help and support. Good opportunities to be proactive are, for example, awareness days, the animal stats, non-technical summaries, and websites improvements. I'm going to share with you some examples, specific examples in Portugal for each one of the commitments. For example, the first commitment that says we will be clear about when, how, and why we use animals in research. The signatories of the agreement, they have to have a position statement at their website explaining why they are using animals in research, giving more information about the legislation, about animal welfare and the 3Rs. And it's also important that this information is easy to find at the website. Also, the non-technical summaries, they should be available for the public. For the second commitment that says we will enhance our communications with the media and with the public about our research using animals, several institutions are creating videos, infographics, they are having interviews with scientists, they are inviting journalists to go to the animal facilities to explain more information about their research. And for the third commitment that says we will be proactive in providing opportunities for the public to find out about research using animals, outreach events such as open days or school visits are good initiatives. Of course, during the last year and because of coronavirus, more online events took place. And that is a really good example by IGC, Instituto Gulbenkian Ciência, that is an EARA member and also signatory of the Transparency Agreement. They did a virtual open day where they explain how the legislation, how the animal research takes place at their facilities, and why it is important to work and to do animal research. Institutional websites are likely to be the first place where people can access information. And that's important that information is available about animal research, that this information is easy to find. So EARA has evaluated how open the institutions in Europe are to communicate their animal research. And I'm also going to show you some results of our survey from our last report. So we assessed more than 1,000 websites in Europe, including 51 in Portugal. So we had several questions in our survey. One of the questions was, does the website contain a position statement? And the answer was yes for 51% of the institutions. The second question, does the website provide more information? And this could include case studies, Q&As, links for other pages with more information. And here we saw that just 27% of the institutions are providing more information. Does the website have images of animals or any videos showing animals in its research? And this is just positive for 41% of the institutions. And again, having images and videos of animals in research from scientists and from institutions that perform animal research is important to make sure that when the public wants to find more information, they will not just find information and images provided by activist accounts and activist groups. Final question, can information on animal research be easily reached? And here we see that yes, in 51% of the cases. And basically we consider that the information about animal research should be found at the websites in 3 clicks or even less if that is possible. The results show that things are moving forward and things are moving in the right direction, but the pace of change to achieve greater openness needs to increase. However, it is clear for us that the biomedical sector in Portugal is making progress, and this is thanks to the transparency agreement we have in place. We are trying to provide as much opportunities as possible to promote debate on this topic across different countries. We organize openness events where we invite scientists, but also science communicators and journalists to speak about this topic and to communicate with the public. We also provide media training to help scientists to speak with the journalists about the animal research they carried out. So some of these events are available in our website in video, so if you want, you can take a look. Something that we are also trying to improve as well is to have more scientists available to answer questions from the public on our social media accounts. So we have this initiative that we call the Transparency Thursdays, where we will invite different scientists every month to answer questions from the public in a video format. And so far, this has been a very successful initiative. We are receiving questions on our social media accounts, and we are having scientists explaining in a very short and easy way why they need to use animals, why they communicate, and how they communicate the research they are doing in these social media accounts. Our first guest was a Portuguese scientist from I3S in Porto, but we also had other scientists from Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and these are some examples that are available in our social media accounts. So if there are some PhD student or some scientists that would like to be part of this initiative, just let me know and you can be one of our next guests.
So depends.
We are also, so we use social media a lot to communicate and to share information about animal research. So for example, in our Instagram account is where you can find these Q&A sessions, the videos of scientists answering questions. We also try to organize information by country. So if you can see the information for Portugal, all the stories are the news. You have a highlight in our Instagram account where you can find stories, events for Portugal. And on Twitter, we also have a Portuguese EARA Twitter account. And for us, it's really important to communicate in national languages. So in total, we have 16 different Twitter accounts in different languages to communicate about this topic. And this is really important for us to communicate not only in English, because we don't want to communicate just with other scientists. We really want to communicate with people, and with people that don't have any scientific backgrounds and that English is not their first or second language. We also have, to help institutions, we have these communications handbook. So this is a handbook we have available for our members, and this is to help institutions, to give guidelines to help them dealing with crises, creating a long communication strategy, and developing web pages and social media. And finally, in our website, there is a web page dedicated to Portugal. There is information here in Portuguese as well. You can find here news about the transparency agreement and everything that is happening in Portugal related to animal research. So thank you so much for your time. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ana, so much for your presentation. So anyone has questions? Of course, I have several, but please do ask your questions first. Everyone is very shy.
Can I? Hello, Ana. Thank you so much for your excellent talk. It was really, really interesting and somehow refreshing. And I have different questions. I was a little bit delayed. I apologize. I had another meeting before, and I don't know if you talk about it. I want to ask, and despite what you have shown, I want for us to explain as what. And taking into account the guidelines to follow, the conditions to obey, the authorization that laboratories need from several official bodies, I would like to know how Portugal compares with other countries in Europe in this sense, and the authorizations and conditions and the guidelines to follow, and how this compares with countries outside the European Union. I'd just like to know how Portugal compares with other countries in Europe and Europe with countries outside the European Union.
Okay, so I can start by saying that so in Europe we have a European directive that regulates the use of animals for scientific use. So and this is something very specific for Europe. The regulation in other places, like in America or in other places in the world, will be completely different. I would say that our directive is one of the best ones to protect the animals in research. The main goal of the European directive is the full replacement of animals in research. But we don't have a deadline in that directive. So the directive doesn't indicate by when we need to stop the use of animals in research. And that's why, that is because we don't know yet. So it's just possible to indicate that, okay, now we will not use animals anymore when the science is ready, and we don't know that yet. So, so in terms of in Europe, we have the directive. I would say that is very important for us. And you have, of course, different countries can apply some parts of the directive in a different way. But I would say that in Portugal, we have some problems regarding some evaluations by the national authorities. But I would say we are trying to improve, and we are not the worst one in terms of implementing the directive. But again, so in Europe, I think we are in a great position regarding applying all the rules and to protect the animals in science.
Yes, because I'm asking because I know some researchers on the field, and it's quite difficult to get all approvals needed. And it takes a lot of time, and research moves on, and the authorizations are not getting yet. So that's why I'm asking. And for instance, how it compares with United States? Are they more strict there?
They have. Yes, so they have a different regulation. For example, I think in America, mice and rats, they don't count as animals in the scientific report, so they don't count as animals used in research, for example. So it's difficult. It is difficult to compare. But again, when we try to look at the global level to understand how animal research is regulated, I think Europe is the best place where we are trying to do our best.
Thank you. Thank you, Ana.
No more questions? Okay, so I want to ask you two questions, completely different ones. First, about your career path. And I think this is important for the students that are listening. You have a degree in biology and geology, right? And then you did the master in ecotoxicology. And then you decided that to be a scientist and to have your background, it's not necessary or mandatory to work in the lab. And then you decided to work in science communication. And because you realized that you wanted to know more, you did a master's in science communication and started to work there and then moved to London. So I would like you to explain to the people here what was the opportunity that you saw that academia is not everything, like you can do things besides working in a research lab. And the second question, of course, is when you moved to EARA, I realized that animal experimentation is a difficult topic for everyone. It's very difficult for myself, for example. We do animal experimentation. I don't work with mammals because ethically it's difficult for me. I cannot do a good job because it's difficult to sacrifice a mice or a rat. But I work with invertebrates, for example, and the directive is also for invertebrates. What the directive wants is to all animal experimentation should be substituted by non-animals, like cell lines and in silico studies and so on. So in the future, what we will have, what people wanted to have when they wrote that directive was to abolish completely animals, right?
Right.
So what was your perspective from someone that used to work in animal experimentation and that knows people that work in like advocacy groups that are against animals? What was the big challenge for you? So I'm asking you more personal questions so you can inspire the people that are listening. So this is the first question. The second, and we think we really want this answer from you, from someone that is in Brussels and knows what people are talking about the use of chickens to produce IGY. Do you think it will be possible to continue that in the future, that the pressure that EARA is putting in the European Commission and all the work that you are developing, do you think that it will be fruitful and we can continue to immunize chickens and do that research work? Or you think that the public opinion is so strong and in Brussels, the people there are so strong against animal experimentation that it will be completely forbidden in the near future as the recommendation states?
Okay, thank you. I will try to give my best to answer those questions. So for the first one, I think that, well, I was really lucky to have opportunity during my degree in biology and geology, first of all, to work with you.
That was not the question.
No, but this is important because we had opportunity during our degree to write our first scientific paper for a Portuguese magazine that is Captar. Captar is a magazine from Aveiro University, and we have opportunity to we wrote our first article to explain the research we were doing in Portuguese, and we had opportunity to use that to engage with different targets. I mean, we went to high schools, we work with students and professors, and the way you communicate between scientists is different when you need to communicate with students in high schools or professors that are not at university. So at that time, it was very interesting to me to understand the different strategies that we need to have to communicate our work and to have people interested in our work. And then I realized that, okay, I think I need to learn more about this because during our scientific or doing our education at university, we are basically trained to communicate scientists for other scientists, basically, especially in biology. And I think is a different approach, and we need different skills to do that. So I realized that I love science and I really like to be in this scientific field, but I was thinking that, okay, maybe I need to learn different skills to also use my scientific knowledge in a different way. And I was feeling that there was a big gap between the knowledge that we were creating in the lab at the university and the understanding from people about our work. So it was a big gap between scientific knowledge and society. I had opportunity to participate in a science competition at that time. That is the FAME Lab. FAME Lab is a science competition where you have like 3 minutes to explain your work without any help. So it's just you, your knowledge, and you have 3 minutes to explain your research. And that was very helpful for me because it gave me the opportunity to have a master class in science communication. And then I realized, okay, there are lots of different tools that I need to learn to be able to communicate. So probably I will try and I will do a second master degree. Why not? In science communication. And that was, I mean, I'm very happy with my decision because there is so much work to do in science communication, and it's really important. I think we have lots of amazing scientists that are really, really good in their work. But sometimes they have it's not so easy for them to communicate with different targets. And that's why it's important to have people that can make these connections and organize these networks and put everyone working together and thinking in different strategies to communicate. And then there are different areas in science communication, but mainly we need to engage with other scientists, but also with journalists, also with politicians. So that's why I think it's really important to have this open approach to understand science communication as something that is important and that should be part of our lives. I mean, I think all scientists should be interested in science communication, and the situation we are living now with coronavirus, I think, is a good example. We need more science communication because people are scared and there are a lot of information out there that is not the right information, and it's difficult for the public to understand what sources of information they need to see and to see as facts. And then not sure if I think I can move to the second question. So basically, it's an very interesting question. So basically, what is happening at the moment is that there is a huge pressure at the European Commission and in Europe to move completely away and to phase out animal research as soon as possible. That's why, for example, in the Netherlands, there is the Dutch government really have this strategy to phase out animal research in the next 4 years or so. At least it was what they would like to do but now they are understanding that this is impossible. It's really difficult to set a deadline and to say, okay, in 5 years there is no more animal research. So now they change the way and they change their strategy. So now they don't want to be the first country without animal research. They want to be the country leading this different approach. So and I think this is interesting to understand because it's different. It's different to be the first one phasing out, and it's different to say, okay, we want to start this new way. From what I'm being able to discuss and to see at the Commission, there is really a lot of pressure. We have now, for example, activist groups moving to Brussels to be more present at the European Parliament as well. However, for example, my presence at the EPAM Eurogroup is really interesting because the EPAM Eurogroup, basically, we have members from academia, from industry, but also activist groups and people like me to discuss all the different sides of the discussion. And I think that's important because we are having a global discussion and discussion trying to include everyone. And I think that is positive. But I mean, the pressure we are facing at the moment, for example, we have lots of members of the European Parliament involved in this way to really try to create a deadline and to say we want to phase out animal research by 4 years or 5 years or 10 years. And the pressure is really huge. To be honest, I think it will not be possible in the near future. However, I mean, it's important to create new ways and to explore the 3 Rs and non-animal alternatives. So I think it's difficult. I think we need to find like a balance between, for example, regarding funding. It's important to fund non-animal alternatives, but also important not to cut the funds to animal research is taking place. So it's really an interesting discussion. I don't have a right or wrong answer to that. What I can say is that the pressure is really, really high at the moment. And if we don't have more people, and especially scientists, speaking about or communicating and explaining what are the areas where it's impossible to move away from animal research, it will be a very difficult situation. So we need more people speaking and giving examples, explaining why we still need to use animals in research, because this is really something that could change. I think it will be difficult, but the discussion is really taken by a lot of activists that they are really good not giving facts, but basically showing emotions about this topic. So this is an interesting and difficult situation.
Okay, thank you so much. So we have a window, and maybe you can talk with Mara about this. Maybe she can be one of your scientists explaining why experimentation, for example, with chickens can be important to develop new biopharmaceuticals in the future. Right, Mara? Don't know if she's...
Yes, it's true. But we can discuss that later if you wish. Like the presentation.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Well, I can make one. Just a really quick question. Hi, I'm Margarita. I'm a PhD student, and I had just one quick question. What is the most difficult thing migrating from academia for now this type of work that you do? What are the main challenges, and what do you think that academia helped you and didn't? So we have both ways, and I just want to know your point of view.
Thank you for your question. I think for me, the most difficult challenge is really to be able to share my message with the different targets. I think could be the most difficult. It's different to speak with a politician than a journalist than a scientist.
To adapt your speech.
and you need to have different skills. And I think, I mean, it was really important for me to, during my degree, to be really passionate about my science and the work I was doing. It was easy for me to tell my story. So that helped me a lot to tell other stories in science communication, because I think the part of telling a story about your research is important. So this was really helpful for me. But then, for example, it was really difficult for me to sometimes to the way we write our stories, the way we communicate.
It's totally different.
It's really different. So sometimes when you want really to share a lot of information, there are parts of information that you don't need to you don't need to explain everything to someone that doesn't have any scientific
you have
background.
to simplify the speech.
And sometimes to be simple is very difficult. So for me, this is my main challenge, is really try to be as simple as possible and be as scientific correct as possible. And this is a big challenge for me.
Thank you.
I think you are on mute.
I was asking if anyone else has some other questions. So if not, I don't see any raised hand. We are finished. Thank you again so much for your availability to speak with us. And I think we already talked about this. If anyone has some questions or wants just to chat with you about this topic or moving careers, they can send you an email or find you in social media, probably. Right?
Right, yes. So please feel free to contact me with any other questions, or if you want to discuss in more detail any of these topics I was addressing, feel free to contact me.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone.